Hello and welcome to EN 102 Business Writing. My name is Isaac Bell. I'm going to be your instructor. That's an image of me if you're at all curious. I've been a teacher for the past 6 years, teaching college level English, especially composition, critical reading and writing, and literature courses of various kinds. I have I will be helping you through the next several weeks of your course, and I will be recording videos like this at least once a week. Um, Sometimes there may be other videos if they're necessary for the content. You probably have taken these courses before, but if not, always make certain that you double check your Moodle page here several times, at least once or twice a week, to see what's going on, see if anything changes. I've only made the first week visible while I'm working on the next week's, but that should be enough to get you going, and we will continue on in the future. Several new things is we have several forums for you to use to communicate with myself and the other classmates. We have one for general announcements if there needs to be any announcements about the course. We have ones for specific questions for me. These are good area to place questions for the entire course that you think will help other students if they understand. You'll also notice here that underneath all these helpful links, including PowerPoints and links to ways to use the library for search and the basics of the format, we have links to the Purdue Online Writing Lab. I'm a big fan of this. I think you should bookmark this and use this for any of your courses you're taking in the future. It's an extremely useful page. They have format guidelines not only for the MOA style, which you mostly have in English and similar humanities, but also for APA, Chicago style, and any other format you need. Can see here it has basic formatting style guides, how you do in-text citations, other forms of formatting, that sort of thing, how to make a works cited page. One of the things I find most useful, it gives you a clear example of what an MOA paper should look like, which includes your name, the course number, my name, a date, a good title, and a good title should give me a hint right away about what it is you're discussing. It should not just be business email, to use an example. It should be business email about whatever it is you're discussing. It gives me one more way to know that you know what you're talking about. Also, don't forget to put your last name and page number at the top of the page. That should go in the header area and not actually on the page. And also remember that basic MOA format is Times New Roman 12-point 1-inch margins, double spaced. All right. So for this week, we are going to have a few things I'd like you to do. First of all, is a special use forum for class introductions. I will be adding my own post to this tomorrow so you can get an example of what I'm talking about. Just give us an idea of why you're at Baker, who you are, and why you're pursuing your education. And here I'm not just expecting you to talk about you wanting a good job, but more broadly, why are you pursuing higher education? So, I will often post these content overviews, and they'll give you short ideas of what you're supposed to be doing. Make sure you refer to the syllabus primarily. If you don't know where to find syllabus, it is here under the overall links, and it has information including course objectives, goals. It gives you a brief outline of whatever every assignment will be. It tells you how many points everything is worth. It will also give you an idea of the grading scale and also give you a direct each week how much time we expect you to be doing things, what due dates are, what the points are, and what the assignments will be. All right. So in here, I will also give you other ideas, other comments such as there is more on chapter 27 business email, but all I want you to look at is the section about business writing right now and other overall ideas of things. These will be more to the point as we get past the introductory stages. All right. I will also mention that when you do your homework, when you have to write something and post it, the best thing to do is to write it in another format. As you can see, I use LibreOffice, but Microsoft Word is perfectly acceptable, or Google Docs, or Pages. If you're working in one of these formats, such as Google Drive here, remember to go down through the file and download it as a Microsoft Word document. You don't want to use any other formats, especially not PDF and especially not the basic Drive format. You don't want to give me a link to your Google Drive. You want to download it as a Microsoft Word document. Same thing as if you work in Pages, if you're on a Mac. You should be able to find the toolbar here, download a copy, and the download the copy should give you option of choosing a Word format. You'll want to do that because it's important to have a copy of this in your own on your own computer, so in case something happens with uploading it, you can always go back to the older copy and show it to me. All right, and then we have a couple other formats. I want you to pay attention to this extra reading here, which is about, if I can locate it on the page, which is about helping you understand the goals of writing emails and what's different between a business email as opposed to a casual email you would be sending between yourself and your friends. There is a goal of understanding your audience and the purpose of it, and it is usually not to have casual conversation. Sometimes it can be, but you should always understand who you're writing for and why. So this gives you several good pointers to think about. You also have a reflection form. So the way the reflection form works is you will be writing at least 3 posts every week. The first post will be due by midnight of Wednesday of each week. And the syllabus, one version of the syllabus said it would be due on Tuesdays. Another version, which you should have now online, says Wednesdays. The first post will be about the week's topics, whatever I think will help you understand the conversation, the topics more clearly. And you should write a clearly thoughtful post for about 200 words. This needs to be critically show critical thinking. You need to consider the prompt and add more than just a few sentences. You need to talk about not only what your answers are, but why you think those are the right answers, or not just the right answers, but why you came up with those answers. What is it that you are actually getting at? What is the meaning behind the answer? If you choose to reference sources in your answers, use MLA citations. Again, the Purdue Online Rating Lab, as well as the writer's reference that you purchased for this course, are great places to see how to do that. This initial post will be worth up to 10 points. Spoiler alert, unless you really do something wrong, most of you will be getting at least 8 points on a post. Posts that I think are fairly thoughtful and are good for driving discussion will get either 9 or 10 points. The follow-up post will be written to 2 or more fellow students. You can write more than 2 posts. Those don't necessarily guarantee higher grades, but if you have thoughtful things to say to several people as opposed to just 2 people, I do take that into account. I want you to look at what the other students have said and think carefully and thoughtfully about what they've said, and then try to respond in about 100 words, something useful. You can either add to the point, you can disagree with it thoughtfully and respectfully, you can add your own arguments, show your own examples, however you want to do it. And each one of those will be worth up to 5 points for a total of 10. The form assignments are only up to 20 points per week. And this week's prompt is about what are the various ways you can communicate at work and what are the expectations. What I want you to get at is the rules. The rules of communication is called genre. And being aware of genre is a very useful thing when we're writing. The other assignments involve, there are 2 assignments that are linked to writing emails. The first one is pre-writing assignment. There are these questions that you'll want to address in at least a couple sentences each to think about where you're going. While this is not due until Sunday, I recommend that you get this done a couple of days earlier, like on Friday or Saturday, so you have time to let this percolate and think on it before you work on the main assignment, which is the business email. And here's an example. You don't have to put it into a form like this, but this is a good way to help you remember what all the parts are. And this also you'll recognize this was taken from your book. And this will help you draft the email and describe what you want to do. And this is due on Sunday at midnight. Also due Sunday at midnight is the reading quiz. It's a short quiz. The example of the quiz is here. You have several questions to respond to about the readings. And while it's 10 questions, you should only have to write a couple sentences at most for each. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the readings. We're going to be reading this week from chapters 5, chapters 8, and the business email part of chapter 27. You'll see obviously that I work from an online form. If I ever give you a page reference and the page reference is wrong, that's why. But you should be able to locate it pretty easily in your own book. The first section, of course, is about pre-writing and the goals of pre-writing. Let's see if I can shrink this down a little bit. All right. So, what you want to do is understand what the goal of pre-writing is. Pre-writing is something that a lot of people don't take the time to do because it does take time, but it's vitally important. This is the part of thinking things through, of understanding what it is you're trying to do, so that when you get to the stage of actually doing it, you don't have to waste that much time going back and correcting yourself a lot. You've already thought through what it is you're trying to do. Think of this as a warm up in sports. When you start stretching and you start practicing throwing the ball around, it's not because you don't know how to do this in the first place. It's so that when it comes time for you to actually perform, you have already warmed up. You've already gotten to the point where you can do what it is you're being asked to do. So, among other things, you have to choose topics. So you should understand what the topic is about and figure out how you can choose topics. Sometimes topics are chosen for you, as for example in the weekly form. But even then, you can ask questions and be thoughtful about what it is you can say in there. Narrow topics are very useful. One of the biggest mistakes young writers make is to be too vague with a topic idea. And so what you want to, and that usually comes from having too broad of a focus. So understand carefully what that focus can be, what it is you're trying to say. So these will give you all kinds of good examples of how to work through things. You don't have to do all of these. These are just ways to work, and some of them apply better in different situations. For example, I'm a big fan of asking questions, but this is no better or worse than branching or forming other frameworks. What you should do is understand what it is you're trying to say. Are you trying to express yourself? Trying to let your feelings or your thoughts be known? Are you trying to give people information? Are you trying to persuade people? And there's plenty of other purposes in there as well, but these are the main ones. Always have that in mind. Also consider who you're writing for. And of course, it's easy to say I'm writing for the teacher, but you should always try to think of your audience as something outside that. For example, this is a business writing course, so you often want to think about potential bosses or other coworkers or people who you can be casual with. A teacher sometimes, my job is to read into and understand what it is you're trying to say, whereas a boss may want you to be as clear as possible because they don't have time for it. Also, remember what the situation is going to be and who else may be seeing things outside of it. So, if you have a coworker that you think you can be pretty casual and use a lot of slang and other kinds of language with, be aware that that coworker may inadvertently forward the email on to people who don't want to see that kind of thing and will respond poorly to it. So, always be aware of your audience. Also, be aware what your point of view is. Most business email, third person or second person is a good way to go. First person is works in specific situations. Genre again is the rules of the form of communication you're using. So always understand that. The medium, What's the difference between a text and an email or a Twitter post, and why do these things matter? If you're having trouble coming with ideas, there's a bunch of examples here of how to help brainstorm, free write, come up with ideas. Again, there's no one way that is better than the others. Some work for you in specific situations, some work all the time. Go through this list and try to get a good sense of what it is that you want to say. After that, we go to chapter 8, which is how do you write effective paragraphs. Effective paragraphs are about getting your point across. And one thing that you may have learned to do, especially in high school, is write a 5-paragraph essay. I want you to stop writing 5-paragraph essays right now. A paragraph conveys a single idea. 5-paragraph essays tend to cram a lot of ideas together because the format is set up that way. So think of what it is you want to say. If you're doing an introduction, what is important to introduce? You don't need to talk about the fact that you get to say this. Just talk about what it is you're saying. For example, this is a good introductory paragraph right here. A paragraph is a group of connected sentences. You don't need any warm up to it. You just need to show me what it is. Also think about what that overall topic is. That you've heard this phrase topic sentence. What that is that is essentially what it is you're going to say, and then you can expand on it, add examples, bring in other sources, whatever. But remember, a paragraph is supposed to have a single strong idea that you can have supplemental ideas built into it. So always pay attention to how that works. These are good examples of good topic sentences, which is topics are usually fairly short, and then you want to say something about that topic. So in this example, shocking behavior by fans, that is a topic. You're making a point about it. It's very common now. And then you have other language you can use to help expand on it and make your point more clear. So make certain you understand all these things, how topic sentences and theses work. Also understand that topic sentences should go near the beginning or the end of the paragraph to help be emphasized. Stuff can sometimes get lost in the middle paragraph, especially when somebody's reading quickly. And then understand supporting details. Details are the engine that makes the writing work. So you don't want to just say, I think this would be a bad thing. You give a reason why. Give an example of what the badness you are talking about is. And so that is how this often works. And then, of course, remember transitions. Transitions are better than just saying however, or and, or but, or on another point. It's how do I acknowledge what I just said? How does that lead into the next thing? So after all of that, then we have the last section, which is about business writing. Now, the overall business writing section gives you several examples you don't need to care so much about, but it's useful to know about, such as how do you put together a resume and job application. And so these are worthwhile to look at just to get a basic idea of this look. One thing to be aware of in all these formats, you want to know what the business you're looking at accepts as a casual thing. You don't want to break the rules unless you absolutely understand what the rules are and why they exist. Then if you need to break the rules after that, you're welcome to do so. But always understand it's a risk, but sometimes risk takers get noticed, but know why you're taking the risk. And also remember that why business emails should be different than the casual emails. And understand why when they say things such as avoiding online slang, such as LOL, why that we say that. Many business people do understand what these mean, but there is such a thing as appropriateness and whether or not that is the image they want to convey. And of course, as before, here's what the basic format of this looks like. So this should be the basic overview. I know I've been talking for a while. The other videos should probably be shorter than this in the future. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Good luck on this week. Thank you. Goodbye.